In this video, we will now try to learn the new concept, and after understanding this concept, we shall be able to understand the Chinese front, which has now emerged as a new theater and a new threat concept for India. But before we try to understand that, it is important for us to understand certain basic concepts associated with the Chinese as a front. The first concept here is the concept of national security. In a very simple language, what does national security mean? National security basically means a combination of values, beliefs, and culture of a state. Every state has a set of values. Every state has a set of certain beliefs. And these values and beliefs of a state constitute the way of life of a state, and that way of life is called the culture of the state. A combination of these three will not only constitute the basic fundamental elements of the national security, but when we talk of national security, the objective of the state is to protect the values, protect the beliefs, protect the way of life or the culture from the onslaught of an adversary. When we take the case of India, there are few things very clear to us. The first and the foremost is that India has a very important value of peaceful coexistence. The value of peaceful coexistence has to be seen in the larger belief of non-violence. This belief that India possesses today of non-violence, this belief which has to be seen along with this value of peaceful coexistence, is basically something that owes its origin from our ancient past. Since the ancient times till today, peaceful coexistence and non-violence have not only dominated our way of life, but has been ingrained as a part of our culture. That is the reason why India never initiates aggression on any state directly. India always remains defensive and remains defensive till the time our sovereignty is not violated. And if you violate our sovereignty, then we will not remain defensive. But the fact of the matter is, we will never provoke you first. This is also the reason why India as a country, for that matter, never tried to invade another country. When Britishers left India and the South Asian subcontinent at that time, the status of Bhutan was not very clearly defined. India did not invade Bhutan. We respected the sovereignty of Bhutan, that as an ancient kingdom, it existed independently. And this is the reason why in 1971, we were the ones who took Bhutan to the United Nations and got a membership done for them. When the Britishers left even the Asian subcontinent, the status of Nepal was very clearly defined that they are an independent territory. They were weak. Had we been somebody like the Chinese, probably an aggressive player, we could have invaded the Nepali territory and brought it very much within our control. But we never did that, for the simple reason that is not our value, that is not our culture, it's not our belief system. If today India and Israel happen to have a very good relationship, let's not forget one thing. It is primarily because the Jewish people, when they were persecuted all over the world throughout the ancient and the medieval times, they were safe when they were in India. The peculiar feature about the Jewish people is that when they came to India during the ancient and medieval times, as they were never persecuted, they passed on this message to their successive generations. They informed their successive generations of the Jews that India is a country that respected us, that gave us the sense of security, and that is the reason why the Jews, who are historically the most conscious people on the planet Earth today, are the ones who appreciate the fact that historically India, which had this belief of non-violence and peaceful coexistence, continues to dominate with the same beliefs till today. It is this value, it is this belief that binds India and Israel as two important countries and as good friends today. So let us not forget that while we have a set of values, while we have a set of beliefs and we have a way of life, if an adversary makes an attempt to try to alter any of these, then it is a threat to our national security. So in a very simple language now, if I define what is national security, the idea will be very clear to you. National security is an attempt by the country to safeguard, to protect its values, its beliefs, and more importantly, its culture. This is the reason why, when we say that the objective of national security is to protect these, while we protect the values, beliefs, and the way of life or culture, do not forget one thing, that not only we have certain actors who are going to play a role in protection of this nation and its values and beliefs, but we also at the same time have, apart from this, a very important aspect of institutions. These institutions will not only be military institutions, but also at the same time intelligence institutions. And these collectively constitute, as I informed you in one of the previous videos, the Indian intelligence community. So therefore, the objective of national security is to not only safeguard, in a simple language as we say, the territory of a country. The objective of national security is not just only to safeguard the people of the country. That is one part of national security. But let's not forget, the larger objective of national security is to safeguard these values that people have, is basically to safeguard and protect the beliefs and the culture that people enjoy today. So national security has to be seen in a broader sense, because not only the adversary will try to attack your physical territory and violate your sovereignty, but the adversary can go a little beyond, and the adversary can also try to tackle by trying to target your values, your beliefs, and also your culture. And it is in this context that these two important terms called subversion and sabotage come. That when the adversary physically attacks your country, then it is a violation of sovereignty. That's where again the national security paradigm will come into place. But violation of the sovereignty, attack on the territory, as I said, is only one part of an attempt by the adversary to trouble you. The adversary can go beyond. What if your adversary, let us say, starts attacking your values, your beliefs, and your culture? If the adversary does that, we call it subversion. So subversion is what? An attack on the values, beliefs, and culture of a country. For example, if there is a cultural practice going on in our country for some time, and suddenly the adversaries who are in the, let's say, Western countries or other places start pointing about some disadvantages of that cultural practice, and then create a propaganda about it at the global level, don't forget the fact, it is an attempt to attack the culture. It is an attempt to undertake subversion. I am using a very generalistic sense here and not giving you a very specific understanding, because I leave it up to you and your understanding to build the linkage of this example. You will be able to understand one thing, that we have certain set of cultural practices in our country. These cultural practices have been going on since the ancient times. And not only they have been going on since the ancient times, but these practices have become a way of life of our Indians. Despite this, there are certain international agencies, which may include even certain international NGOs for that matter, which are very concerned about Indians doing certain practices. We don't poke our nose in somebody else's affair. When you have certain cultural practices, we don't object to it. We also expect the same reciprocity. But the problem is that these certain NGOs in the Western part of the world, whatever they may call themselves as the Human Right Brigade or whatever they may call, or even the Animal Right Brigade, they may brand themselves in any way they want to. But they will try to convince not only you, but the larger part of the world, that this particular practice that you are doing, which may be called as a culture in your country, is not something which is in sync with the demand of the 21st century. And thereby you should try and avoid doing this. They may indulge in litigation against all these things, and they may try to fight it in the judiciary if required by pumping money into your country to make sure that their values get propagated and not your culture. And this is an attempt, but nothing, only to do subversion. So be very careful, friends, that whenever your adversary is trying to do all this, you have to be cautious to identify where is your adversary trying to make an impact, because your adversary will try to do everything possible to attack your values, to attack your beliefs, and to attack your cultural practices. And that is why we say that the war never stops. That is why we say that the war is not only the military war which is fought on the borders of a country. There is a constant war under which India is today placed as such. This war is a constantly ongoing war because this is a war on our culture, on our beliefs, and also on our basically the value system that we have. But now the larger question is, why does the adversary do this? The adversary does this because of the word sabotage. The word sabotage simply means an attempt to weaken the country. The weakening part is weakening the economy of a country, weakening the culture of a country, weakening the values of a country. See, the sabotage is always the end goal. When you do subversion with the attempt to weaken a state. So let's understand this very carefully. Today, India is a historically old civilizational player. And as a civilizational player, India is making a very rightful claim of being the global superpower. If India is today making a claim of being the rightful claimant to a global power status, let us not forget one thing, that there are adversaries who will try to weaken us in our attempt to reach that global power status. And that attempt to weaken us to reach the global power status is basically an attempt by the adversary to do sabotage. So sabotage is your end goal. The end goal is to weaken the country. Weaken the country at any level, be it economic, be it political, be it cultural, be it military. Because the objective is that when you weaken the country, you curtail, cut down its ambition to become a global power. So don't forget, you will never hear, for that matter, surprisingly, sabotage or subversion happening in a country, let's say like Mongolia. Mongolia does not have a global power ambition. Any country which has an ambition, be it a regional ambition or a global ambition, that country is likely to witness sabotage. And sabotage is an attempt to weaken the country to help that country achieve that ambition. And in order to do sabotage, you will use subversion as strategy. So subversion means multiple strategies that you may adopt in order to basically weaken the country. If I give you a simple more example, let's take the case of Turkey. Turkey is a country which earlier had an Ottoman caliphate. At one point of time, Turkey was a big regional power. Turkey today wants to re-establish that big regional power status that it enjoyed at one point of time in the history. So Turkey thereby, we can very rightly say, has a regional ambition. If Turkey has a regional ambition, there are adversaries of Turkey which will try to sabotage the attempt of Turkey to reach that regional ambition. And in order to prevent Turkey to reach that ambition, they will resort to subversion. Same is the case of India. India has a global power ambition. And because we have a global power ambition, our adversaries will try to sabotage our attempts to become a global power. They will weaken us economically, militarily, politically, culturally, everywhere, so that we do not end up in becoming a global power. And the strategies that they will adopt to weaken us would be called subversive strategies or subversion. So subversion is basically the means and sabotage is the end. That is what you need to understand. So thereby, when a country is protecting or undertaking the protection of its territory, it is not just the territory that matters, but the people within the territory also matter. And not only the people within the territory matter, but their values, their beliefs, their culture, everything matters. So thereby, in this video, we have learned the very important concept that national security is not a narrow but a very broad concept. It is not a narrow and a broad concept primarily because that when we look at national security should not only imply protection of territory, but protection of values, beliefs and culture. Attempt to weaken these values, beliefs and culture is basically the objective of the adversary, and the strategies that they will adopt is called subversive strategies. So with this conceptual understanding clear, now we will try in the next video to understand that how is China today acting as a front that is a problematic theater of trouble to us, and what kind of strategies is the Chinese today adopting to weaken us internally so that they are able to prevent our global power ambitions. Thank you.